So I am explaining the information that I've learned in this course so far to my fiance, who is not a teacher. He is a student in the School of Business at CSUB with a concentration in finance, and his work is more, what he's interested in going into is a cop, and he wants to do something more along the lines of gang unit and narcotics. Say hi, Mark.
Hello.
So this course has taught me how to be a better teacher. I've really learned what Common Core is and just how positively different it is from what I grew up learning. Because with Common Core, you teach the students the why. You teach them the important things that they really need to know to become citizens in a 21st century world. Everyone thinks that this 21st century education is learning how to use technology and learning how to, pick up a computer and go. It's not about that, It's, when we were in school, it was more teacher talked at you and then you plugged and you chugged. But now it's different, and I think that, college is what we teach the kids with Common Core,
Yeah.
So, like, with Common Core, well, like with college, you go in and you're expected to tell me why, I want to know, we're reading a story about a bear, the bear eats that fox. Why did the bear eat the fox? What happened? The bear ate the fox. Well, why do you think the bear ate the fox? You have to be able to explain your thinking, and the first 4 chapters I've really talked about why we teach the kids the way that we teach them and how to teach them so that they're not just learning to plug and chug and give you back what you taught them the way you taught them. It's more to say, here's how this math is going to be useful later on in life. So whenever you design a lesson, it's not just looking at a set of standards and, I have to get this done. It's, here are these sets of standards. What can I do? What other subjects can I mix in to make this meaningful to them? And goals are less, they will give me this. They will give me this. It's that more that they'd be able to explain. I don't know about your high school experience, but in my high school experience, I had some classes that were like with this whole Common Core thing where you're going to explain yourself. And I felt that those were more my AP and honors courses, and that my gen ed courses where students really would benefit, because all of us in our AP and our honors and our GATE courses, we knew how to do that already because we were those students. But in the gen ed courses, like in my senior year, when I finally decided that I needed to not stress myself out so much and also go for my extracurriculars, that those are the students who needed this style of learning, that they needed to learn the importance of what they were learning, that you may think percentages are boring, but when you don't understand that, you're going to get this % off, you could get ripped off if you don't know what percentages mean. So I feel that the first 4 chapters have really laid the framework and also just a lot of understanding, and how I did grow up a quote-unquote smart kid, but it's a totally different world now where you're learning to communicate with others, you're learning to work with others, and on the SBAC testing at the end when they have like a real-world application problem, those mean something, and those are the kinds of things that students need to be exposed to in the classroom. And then telling them why they're learning it, not just like, you're learning this because, you're learning fractions because when you bake, or you make a cake or you go buy that pizza, they use fractions to make it. But like, here's what you're going to be able to do so that you can do X, Y, and Z. Or, here's what you're going to be able to do with this lesson. And you could do it with this job and that job. or with my students, I can't quite share with them like the exact learning targets. I give them I can statements. So like I can add numbers 1 to 10. I can show colors. I can name my shapes. And I just think that's important because in chapter 3 where they talked about that, it wasn't just, okay, older kids need to know what they're learning and you need to share with them their standards. I remember hearing a lot about, okay, you need to tell the kid, the kids need to know the standards you're working on. But to them, that just looks like a whole bunch of like words and numbers, and like they don't understand that, and they're gonna tune that stuff out. So I take it and I make it I can statements in my classroom so that the kids know, and it's more kid-friendly language when you tell them, especially at kindergarten, here's what you will be able to do. I can name my colors. I can do this. They're more excited because it's something that they're able to take personally as their own now. And when you give them you're supposed to, you come up with what they're supposed to know, what they're supposed to learn, and you make it real world applicable. You move it on to telling them what they're going to be able to do with this information, that it's not just some useless information that you're throwing at them. And then you take those learning targets, those learning goals, or in my case, I can statements, and you keep moving forward. You make it more complex. You make it student-centered, and that's the biggest thing that we didn't have growing up. I can't think of how many times a teacher said to me, please stand up and give me your answer, because that's a big thing that kids don't know how to do. And I'm not saying that everyone who has stage fright, it's because their teachers didn't give them a chance to speak in front of the class, but no one knows how to do that anymore. And there's just so much useful stuff that we didn't get that our kids now are getting, and I'm even a little bit jealous of my students that they do get this education that puts me in the seat, me the teacher, in the seat of a facilitator, that I just sit here and I sit back and I say, work, here are these materials, learn something for yourselves and teach yourselves, and they can do it. It's a little bit of hard work at first, especially because the parents didn't get that kind of education. They got the education we got, where they were sat in a chair and they were talked at all day long. And so students really take the driver's seat in their education. And then they hear back from their teacher, here, let's try this. Or especially when they're doing an experiment, being able, like something open-ended where it's not a guaranteed, like this is what's going to happen. When we grew our little terrariums, I feel like this is a good example of using, I wanted them to be able to name the parts of a plant and tell me what a plant needed. And I told them that they would be able to do that, and they needed to know this because the food that we eat, the food that farmers grow, are plants. And so I chose a whole bunch of seeds, some that I knew for sure were going to grow and some that I wasn't sure. I had never seen in one of those little Ziploc baggy terrariums with you put the cotton balls in. And, we went for it. There was no guarantee that their plants were going to grow, and I didn't even think about them. Some of them ended up molding, and just stuff like that, and asking them to say what they think is going to happen, and what they did with it once they took it home was also their own variable, their own control. Some of them decided they wanted to throw them away. Some of them, they gave them to their brother or their sister, and their brother or sister planted them. Some of them split them up. So they're taking hold and bringing home their education as well. They'll ask me, well, what's going to happen when I do this? Sometimes I know, sometimes I don't, and that's good for them. Because the kids go into, I think one of the things that Common Core gives students is, I remember thinking my teachers knew everything. Common Core lets students figure things out for themselves. They're not sitting here thinking, my teacher knows everything. If I just sit here and pester my teacher long enough, I'm going to get the answer. They're going to learn that their teacher's not there to give them the answer. They're there to aid them. And then another big thing that I got from what kind of cemented, like how big was formative assessments. Just a simple thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you hear my directions? And having not chin it, but like, they can chin it with a whiteboard. They can write their answer, and if they're not sure of what it is, no one else is gonna know because they're holding their whiteboard like this. They're not holding it like this. They're not showing it to anybody. They're holding it down here and asking me, if you don't get it, give me a thumbs down. If you get it, give me a thumbs up. And in kindergarten, I figured I'd start them off right by saying, let's make mistakes. And I let them thumbs down as much as they need, and I tell them, it's okay. I know how to help you because you said you don't know what's going on. And there's just so much you can get without a paper and pencil test. You can talk to them. You can give them random pieces of paper. You can give them, a handful of dice. And if you give them to them and you give them bowls that happen to be the same color, not telling them to go and sort, they'll do all that academic stuff. They just need somebody to support them. And I feel that these last 4 weeks and these last 4 chapters have really cemented the idea of that.